Good evening. Welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and Council meeting for January 12th, 2021. I'm calling to order this meeting. It is approximately 7:35 p.m. We'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griesbach,
Here.
Mrs. Gatos,
Here.
Mr. Poach,
Here.
Mr. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Wolfram,
Here.
Mr. Arasenko,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
He said here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Little,
Here.
Mr. Ratcher,
Here.
Ms. Rock, Mr. Hugus,
Here.
Mr. Sedlak,
Here.
Mr. Weldon. I know he's here.
Very good. Welcome, everyone. Once again, due to the pandemic, we are holding this meeting via Zoom. It is definitely not the style of meeting that anyone here on council wants to hold this meeting. We had some IT issues at the start, and that's why we're delayed, but these meetings are recorded and are available on YouTube at any time. Council, we're going to move the agenda around. I'm going to start annually. I have to give a state of the municipality address. Section 606G of Monroeville's Home Rule Charter requires for the mayor to prepare and deliver a state of the municipality report to the citizens of Monroe. Council members, Manager Little, municipal staff, and community members. This past year has been difficult for everyone in Monroeville on many levels. The entire community, and country for that matter, has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Every household, business, school, organization, and house of worship has had to do things differently. The municipality was not excluded from the effects and had to operate in different manner to provide services. This is a testament to council, the municipal manager, Tim Little, and our employees. I'm happy to report the council approved this year's budget without raising real estate taxes for 2021. This year's budget maintains funding for all of our departments, services, and amenities on which our residents and community members benefit and enjoy. Due to proper fiscal management over the past several years, Monroeville's fund balance experienced growth by keeping expenditures within budget by the municipal manager and our department heads, along with the ongoing exceptional collections by our tax department. This fund was there for our community to be used for unforeseen emergencies as we experienced this past year with the pandemic. Council will use approximately $2.6 million from this fund balance for our budget this year. This is obviously not an approach to take annually, but considering the magnitude of the pandemic, Municipal Manager Little, council, and I feel this is an appropriate time to use these funds. Even with this spending, we still maintain a solid financial reserve. As we emerge from the pandemic, we must be financially cautious without ignoring future needs. Our infrastructure throughout the community and within municipal facilities. We must recognize and prioritize much needed projects. Our capital improvement program was put on hold in 2020, and its development should be resumed by the end of this year by the manager and staff. The pollution control and flood reduction program has reduced some of the financial burden of infrastructure costs, but a comprehensive program needs to be identified for future planning. In addition to restarting the capital improvement program, I suggest we turn our attention back to our joint comprehensive plan and our active transportation plan, for both have a vision for the future of Monroeville. We must also see through a full update to our zoning ordinance. Staff is currently working on these changes. It is a big undertaking, but council and I feel it needs to be done to help shape the community in a positive manner. During the pandemic, residents was found on our trails and within our parks. Our parks saw a huge increase in their use and were extremely important for the health, well-being, and quality of life for our residents. During the budget process, as promised by their resolution, council maintained the funding from the sale of the Bel Air Community Pool by keeping it earmarked for Parks and Recreation. Although it would have been easy to funnel that money into our latest budget this year should remind all of us how important our parks are for the community, and we should invest in them. Most Monroeville businesses were severely impacted by the pandemic and the associated state and county mandates and closures. As you know, our restaurants were one of the most affected. Many residents patronize these establishments through takeout ordering, and I encourage everyone to continue their support for this important industry. In an effort to help during warmer weather, council modified our regulations to allow more outdoor dining, and I encourage everyone to shop locally for the same reason, to support our local businesses and their employees here in our community. Despite the pandemic, home sales were very positive this year with rising values and quick market turnover. There were also numerous land development projects completed or placed under construction this past year. 260 building permits were issued with an approximate construction value of $15.5 million. A&L Motors, Evergreen Apartments, Fox Plan Road Apartments, Sandy Hill Development Homes, UPMC East Emergency Room Expansion, Number 1 Cochran Cadillac Showroom, and the new AVETS Veterinary Hospital are a few examples. Our public safety continues to be maintained by our excellent police department in-house dispatch center. Council and I agree on their importance and are funding them at a strong level with a budget increase this year. The main increase is to outfit our officers with body cameras and associated equipment. I feel this is important technology for our community and for the safety of our officers that we cannot delay. During the state of emergency declaration, our dispatch center provided an important function for emergency services. As many communities had to add emergency operations centers, Monroeville was already prepared for an emergency of this magnitude. We will continue to fund this important department. Our fire departments continue to provide fire suppression and emergency response on the backs of hardworking volunteers, while our EMS departments continue to provide life-saving response under the ongoing COVID-19. I'm thankful for these important community organizations, and Monroeville will continue to provide supplemental funding for them. As we move forward out of the pandemic, we must not forget our neighbors and community partners that got us through. Our healthcare workers, providers, and staff throughout the region and at our hospitals, AHN Forbes Hospital and UPMC East Hospital. I mentioned our public safety departments, but also want to recognize all of our municipal workers and the staff that kept Monroeville operating as normal as it could. I thank all of our essential workers throughout the community, including those that had to work the stores and the businesses that were permitted to be open. And certainly our teachers deserve credit for all they have done this past year and continue to do under these circumstances. These individuals, along with our residents, our local organizations, and school district, must work together and continue to support one another through this difficult time and maintain the great community that we have here in Monroeville. Council, we're going to move over to our Citizens Night and our public comment component of our meeting. It being a Zoom meeting, we asked residents to submit their concerns and questions via email by Monday. We have numerous that we've received. I want to start with Ed Maddock. Mr. Ed Maddock regarding the William Penn Duff Road project, which is the Penn Monroe Shops, which is on the agenda for this evening. Mr. Maddock's main concerns are the amount of traffic on Duff Road, privacy wall to block the noise, and lights at the top of the wall. is also concerned about the trash that may blow down onto the properties and is curious who's responsible for the removal of the trash, and that there were trees that were not promised. And they were also concerned about water runoff at the site. The comments in their entirety we placed in the minutes. Also, all of council has received all of the comments prior to the meeting. The rest of the comments that I have this evening we have 16 comments, all revolve around the same issue, which is the Logan's Ferry Road development, the rezoning. Council, in your packet, the new business, the rezoning, the Clover Communities Monroeville LLC, where the applicant is requesting to rezone 57.982 acres of property, currently zoned L special use to R4 multifamily residential. Property is located at 3926 Logan's Ferry Road, Browns Airport. The challenge with when we ask to have people submit comments in writing, certainly we don't have the public here to really involved with the process. But what I will say is we have all these comments, once again, that'll all be placed in their entirety in the minutes. All of council has received these comments. They will also be distributed to the staff. They will be distributed to the planning commission as well. This evening, council is only considering the rezoning of the property. The overwhelming majority of these concerns and comments are regarding the site plan or what is going to be built there. But that is not what council is considering this evening. What I will say, though, is all of these comments are opposing the rezoning, but all of their reasons are for the site plan. So it is a separate issue. But I do want to read their names into the record of the residents that did write their comments to council. Joe Marzalek, David Hooper, Patty and Curtis Formansky, Matthew Vizzini, Ray Weaver and Lois Weaver, Matthew Valentine, Jason Beam, Heather Lewis, Scott Lewis, Carol Fugger, Richard Rogus, Patty Rogus, and Jerome Schaefer and Patty Schaefer. Once again, all these comments are against the rezoning. However, they are mostly about the site plan, which is something we are not considering. So what I would like to encourage council to do is perhaps table this item of the rezoning. And what that does is a few things. That will allow staff and us to get more answers from some of these have brought up. It also would give the residents time to come to a future meeting where they can be here in public. Hopefully we can get that started at the next meeting, February's meeting or the March meeting. And with the holidays, it was somewhat of a challenge for people to be notified properly of this. So I'm looking for a suggestion from council if anyone is willing to take that on, or if they want to move forward with this item.
I'll make a motion to table.
Table.
We have a motion to table,
I'll second.
and there's a second to table. So at this point, there'll be no further discussion other than what I just outlined. But all these comments have been to council. They'll go to our planning department. They'll go to our staff. And I think what staff needs to do is contact the developer and get more direction for the residents and for council. So that is a little bit out of order, but we will take a roll call vote for the table. We have a motion and a second, so roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
He's muted.
Mr. Poach,
You're muted. You're
Sorry,
muted.
guys. Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Orosinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Let's have it. Thank you. And residents will be properly notified of future developments or future action. But for now, there'll be no decisions made about that item this evening. And that is all we have received as far as public comment. So I'm going to close the public comment period. And then I have an executive session announcement. The council conducted an executive session before tonight's council meeting on Tuesday, January 12th, 2021, from 6:15 to approximately 7:20 p.m. for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at tonight's council meeting. Council, in front of you this evening are the minutes. Minutes of the budget hearing of November 19th, 2020, the Citizens Night meeting of December 8th, 2020, the council, which we did not have one, the regular council meeting of December 8th, 2020, and the special council meeting of December 22nd, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, additions, concerns, questions? Seeing none, call please.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Ursenko,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos.
Aye.
Thank you.
The ayes have it. Council, reports of the tax collections. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any comment? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Ursenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
The ayes have it. List of bills and budget transfers, council. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, whatever.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Comment.
Mrs. Gatos.
I had called Mr. Little about it. It was an $81,000 bill for the play equipment at Evergreen Park. And that's basically almost a pass-through from a grant. And some final paperwork needed to be done, but that money will be coming back.
That's great. Mr. Williams.
I would like to ask the manager to explain why in 2019, we had $730,407, and in 2020, it's $4,588,967. Can you explain to the council and to the public, please?
Two items on that, Bob, is that the pension payment, we usually pay that in October, but we paid it in December because we mentioned during the December council meeting and also at one of the budget hearings, there was a clerical error with respect to the non-uniform. So we held up on that and we paid the pension contributions in December. Also, there was purchase in December with Cargill, who we have our contract with, and those are the two reasons for that increase, mostly the pension.
Hey, thank you.
Any other questions about the list of bills or the budget transfers? There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Ursenko,
You're on mute, Greg.
Aye. I apologize. Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos.
Aye.
The ayes have it. In our payroll report, council, is there a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Ursenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, moving over to our vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. In your packet, it's in the blue section. It's also on your screen. Mrs. Gatos, we'll go in order of count and ward order. Mrs. Gatos.
Yeah, I would like to make the appointment of Dan Gerhart to the planning.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call, or
Mrs.
rather,
Gatos,
it's an all in favor.
go ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
The ayes have
Have it. Mrs. Gatos, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Heather Wilkins to the zoning hearing board for the open vacancy.
I'll second.
Okay,
There's a motion and a second, and Mrs. Gatos, I didn't pick up.
there
There
is
is three different date terms.
Right.
Okay.
For the open vacancy position?
Actually, sorry, Mrs. Gatos, that's actually, you're nominating, correct?
Correct.
okay, so
That's only for an appointment, so it doesn't matter. So you're just nominating.
I'm going to nominate her and then we can appoint her to what positions open next month.
Correct.
So there's a motion
motion
and a
is
second to nominate Heather Wilkins to the zoning hearing board.
roll call.
I thought it was all in favor.
Voice vote?
Roll call because I didn't know if everybody were unmuting.
Okay. You want a roll call? Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wil-
The ayes have
Have it. Mrs. Gatos, anything else?
I
How about
do,
that? Don't we have three other folks that were nominated?
is it my
We're
turn or
gonna go
not,
with
Mayor?
Mrs. Gatos is,
Sorry?
Mrs. Gatos, we'll go through her list and then we'll move down the line.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
Mrs. Gatos, anything else this evening?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Roach?
Could you bring the list back up, please, right now, folks?
Tim or Tina?
Okay, thank you. I do want to make a recommendation appointment for Nancy Harvey for the Water Authority. And
I'll second.
Motion
Motion,
second.
roll call.
No,
No. Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Arasenko?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Abstain.
Mr. Poach?
aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Mr.
Mr.
Poach,
Roach, anything else?
Yeah, could you scroll, please, to, I'm not sure if it's a nomination or for appointments for the library board. I believe I have something in the second ward. We should be, went
There
past
you
it.
go. There you
Mr.
go.
Mayor,
Nominated to, Dennis McDaniel for the second ward.
You want to
Oh.
appoint?
Yes.
hold on.
I'll second.
I have a comment on the.
I'll second Mr. Poach's.
Mr. Mayor,
Mayor, I will second Mr.
One moment,
Poach's.
everyone. One moment. Let's all get some order here.
Well, we're not following order. I have a comment on the appointment to the Water Authority.
You can make it a team.
That
that
vote already happened. We'll come back to that whenever it's your turn.
My issue is that this is Mr. Harvey's wife, and she should not be eligible for appointment to any paid board in the municipality of Monroeville. I like Nancy. I don't have a problem with Nancy, but this is a conflict of interest, period.
Well, the ayes have it. We're going to go back to Mr. Roach, if you could finish your
Nomination.
appointments.
Mr.
Right.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor,
If we
If
If
we
we
could
can
get
get through the appointments and the nominations, We'll go down. Everybody will have their time to speak, and everybody will have their time to place the nominations for appointments if they have any. It's hard
In person,
even worse in a Zoom meeting to try to get everybody to talk. So we can just try to do it orderly. I think that's the best way to make sure everybody hears everything and everything's clear.
so Mr.
Coach, if you could continue.
Yes, I had the just finishing up with the library board piece of this, although I had that one nomination from the second ward. I believe the one is an unexpired term, so I don't know, does that require action? That was a request or appointment from them.
There was a motion to nominate McDaniels and a second.
Right.
It's nominated.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Poach,
So Dr. McDaniel, being in Ward 2, he would fill the January 2021 to December 2023 term.
That's correct. All right.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
The ayes have it. Mr. Poach.
I don't, and then scroll down, please, once. I don't believe I have anything else right here for work on. That's it for now.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey.
Yes, Tim, could you take that down off the screen for a minute because you're blocking some of the controls on my, here we go. I would like to appoint Michael Gatos to the Parks and Recreation Board.
I'll
A
second.
second? We
I'll
have a motion
second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Abstain.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Harvey.
I have nothing else.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Harvey, do you want to make the appointment for the Convention Visitors Bureau?
It's on the second page, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm glad you caught. I want to, Mr. Mayor, I'd like a motion to appoint Ryan Witt from UPMC to the Visitors Convention Bureau.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Harvey, anything else?
No.
Library, Mr. Harvey?
The third ward.
Library?
Mary Frances Thorne.
Oh my God.
Eric, you have a
He's getting there.
zoning hearing board, see.
Ryan,
Mr. Harvey,
you
are
want
you,
to do the library?
Sorry?
Library appoint Mary Frances Thorne. Antonio.
Second.
roll call, please. Motion and a second to appoint Mary Frances Thorne.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Harvey, last chance. Is there anything else?
Where's Mrs. Gatos?
Mrs. Gatos, does Mr. Harvey have anything else he wants to do?
I don't know, but I'm not sure where Mr. Deal comes in for the pollution control board, but if nobody else wants.
I was gonna do that.
Okay, good, then we're covered. Thank you.
Thank you. These are challenging meetings, that's for sure. Mr. Wolf, Mr. Wolfram, anything this evening?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Arasinko,
Yes, I have a couple of them, Mayor.
go ahead.
I'd like to appoint Tracy Poach to the Recreation and Park Advisory Board.
Second,
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Arasinko,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Abstain.
Mrs. Gatos.
aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Arasinko,
Yes, I'd like to appoint Ed Deal to the Pollution Control and Flood Reduction Board of Appeals. This would be his second term.
Second,
second.
second,
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Arasinko,
I am done. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah, I want to read a section of the Monroeville Home Rule Charter, section 2107. I want Mr. Ratcher to be sure and listen. It says any elected or appointed municipal officer who knows or in the exercise of reasonable diligence could know that an officer is in directly or indirectly in any municipal contract or has an adverse or special interest in any municipal matter shall notify council thereof. Any such contract or municipal matter shall not be acted upon or approved by council except by affirmative vote of at least 5 of the members thereof. When the interested officer is a member of council, such officer shall refrain from voting on said contract or municipal matter. I don't think we have enough votes.
but you're referring to,
Comment.
are you referring to this appointment process?
Appointment process for the municipal authority, yes.
Mr. Ratcher, comment?
Yeah, I would have to take a look at section 2107. It's my opinion that that would not apply to that particular situation.
Okay. Council, any questions regarding that matter?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
You know what, I did have one more appointment. I like Ron and everybody else. I guess I missed it. If I may, if it's okay.
Yeah, let's come back to that in a second. Any other comments? Mr. Little, I guess, Mr. Williams brings us up. This is something the solicitor can go over with you and it can be addressed. It needs to be addressed. And if we could do that at our next business meeting.
That is correct.
Karen, can you read back the votes for the municipal authority, please?
Who are you addressing?
I'm addressing the municipal authority. I want to hear who.
Oh, geez.
The votes were Mrs. Gatos, Mr. Poach, Mr. Wolfram, Mr. Cinco in the affirmative. Mr. Harvey abstained. And there was a no vote cast by Mr. Williams and Mr. Wilson. And so the motion, the appointment carries 4-2. Attention.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Williams, do you have anything as far as appointments and nominations this evening?
I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, Greg, can I come back to you?
Sure. Very good. Greg, go ahead.
Mr. Arsenko, Mr. Wilson's referring to you. So go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I'd like to appoint Michael Gatus to the term of the January 21 to December of 2025 for the zoning hearing board.
To what?
Did I not make that clear?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. I couldn't believe what you said.
Okay, you want me to repeat that, Mayor?
If you would, please.
Sure. Appointing
That's Ward 1. That isn't you.
to.
Mr. Wilson, if you could let Mr. Arsenko make his appointment.
Mr. Ratcher, I need a ruling on this.
You finished talking?
Okay, tomorrow I'm talking to the Post Gazette. You best believe it. And I'm
If we could all,
what the heck
speak
is going on here?
one at a time. Yes, I'll come to you in a second, Mr. Ratcher. If we all speak one at a time, I think the meeting will go much smoother.
This is a complete exercise in fraud. It's,
Well, let's do this first.
listen to me,
We have a
fraud.
motion. Mr. Wilson, please. Mr. Arsenko, your motion, is there a second? Phone on there, Mr. Harvey, if you don't mind.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Mr. Wilson's point, Mr. Ratcher, if you could weigh in.
Yes, the Home Rule Charter does not restrict committee and board appointments to the particular person whose ward it is. Now, that is a courtesy that has often been afforded, but it has also, in many cases, not been afforded by past councils as well as the present council. So anybody can make a nomination, anybody can make an appointment, they've got to get a second, and then there's got to be a vote of the full council.
Well, you know, it's loaded here. They're gonna get the vote. They got.
Ratcher, finish his comment.
Hey, with Harvey's wife. Linda's husband and
Mr.
Harvey's wife.
Mr. Wilson, please.
This is
I understand your frustration.
the way this whole council has gone the last year. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Mr. Ratcher, do you have anything further to add?
No, I was just going to say, though, that there's not a restriction in that respect. A person from the fourth ward can nominate or appoint a person. If council wishes to pass under their council rules, that you can only, which they adopt periodically, that you can only have an appointment for a ward position from the representative of that ward, they're free to do so. That is not the present situation.
And in this case, actually,
I got
there
a
aren't
question.
7
Do
speakers.
you folks need that money that badly? Position. These are paid positions, public. This is wrong. These are all paid positions. This is a conflict of interest, period.
Mr. Wilson, we have a motion and a second for this appointment. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Abstain.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Rosinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson,
Mr. Wilson votes absolutely not.
The ayes have it.
I'm so
Mr.
disappointed in
Anything
this
else to add?
council.
Have anything this evening as far as appointments or nominations?
No, Mayor, thank you. Be ashamed of yourselves. Can't even look me in the eye, can you? Look at that. I know. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. You're trying to control this whole board.
Mr. Mayor, we need to get
Sooner or
control.
later, you're gonna get yours. Believe me.
Tired, Mr. Mayor, very tired of Mr. Wilson.
Everyone, if we could all order, please. Regroup. Moving over to
Wait.
agenda. Our new business. Our first item was what council already tabled earlier. That is the Clover Communities of Monroeville. This is the rezoning of Browns Airport. It is tabled, which means there'll be no further discussion taken on this evening. Moving over to our second and third items, rather. Mr. Little, if you would.
Sure. Number 2 is the KDP Monroeville, PA LLC Penn Monroe Shops. The applicant is requesting a site plan approval to construct 4 buildings, 1 grocery store, 1 bank, and 2 restaurants, and the associated site amenities. The property is on 4.8 acres and located at the intersection of William Penn Highway and Duff Road, known as tax parcel 743-G-70 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. Planning Commission recommends approval. And the next item is also relating to that property, and that is, Mayor, if I can move on to that one.
Yes, please.
Okay. That is also the same one, KDP Monroeville, PA. Applicants requesting a conditional use approval pursuant to section 403 Plan Group Units of the Monroeville Zoning Ordinance 1443 as amended to permit 3 principal structures on 1 property. The property is 4.8 acres and located at the intersection of William Penn Highway and Duff Road, tax parcel 743G70 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. This is a public hearing item, so anybody that wished to testify, but being a Zoom meeting, that would be difficult to do. I should take that back. We had 1 person that did offer comments to this development. Planning Commission recommends approval to this development.
I'm gonna say motion to approve.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Little, is the applicant joining us?
I believe so. Mr. Hugus and Mr. Wilden, do we have the applicant here?
This is Paul Wilden, the zoning officer. I received an email that said that they were participating in the Zoom meeting. So hopefully they can speak up. Mr. Panko, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
You're on.
welcome, Mr. Panko, Nick Griesok, Mayor. A public hearing item. And this is the times we're living in. I'm gonna have to swear you in over the phone or through a Zoom meeting.
And you might as well do, we have my different people, consultants, my partner.
Yeah, exactly. If we could maybe identify each of you, or Mr. Panko, if you want to maybe go down the list to let us know who's here.
Why don't you go ahead and down the list then, sir? You want,
Sorry, I don't, is
Yeah.
it Mr. Panko? Darren Meyer is here with the, for the engineer, or for the other applicant, correct? Mr. Panko, if you would, help me out and tell me who your group is.
sure. It is Chris Sotos, is John Grieva and Chris Perry are with Wolpert. Bob Goetz is with the traffic consultant. Rory Gar may be on with Aldi. And Chris Perry, who is the gentleman, it's Camber, Mr. Camber is the engineer for Aldi. I believe he is also on. Did I miss anybody from our team?
No, that sounds right.
Okay, folks, so actually what we're going to do here, if you could raise your right hand for me, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You do.
I do.
Thank you. And once again, as we mentioned, public joining us for the public hearing, there was the 1 comment that I read earlier from Mr. Mr. Maddock, the council received, but there's no one else from the public for this item. So if we could maybe just give us an overview of your project and we'll go from there.
Sure, I'll just take a moment and then we'll dive into specifics, concerns or questions that the council members and yourself may have. We appreciate the opportunity. We went through the Plan Commission last month before the holidays. They voted positively for the project. As you know, Frank, we are under contract to buy the parcel from Frank Zacchaeus. He's done a masterful job. I've been doing this for 24 years. Anything like this from an engineer perspective on filling this site and raising it up to be usable and generating jobs and sales tax dollars for the city. So we have Aldi food stores, which is all the way to the east. They're typical grocer. And I believe an Aldi representative is on the call with us. He can address more specific comments, but I'm sure you're familiar with them. They actually have if you tune to their elevations, it's a really nice, clean glass look that they have on that corner element. So we're excited to have them on board and go. The other tenants are KeyBank, is the bank that's proposed, and then next door is Mission. We are the landlord for them in Robinson, Pennsylvania, around a couple miles up the road. They are doing phenomenal. They're a great operator. We're really, really excited to have them. And then the other drive-through component is a proposed Taco Bell. They are relocating from their existing location, right kitty corner. So we've worked with staff. We've worked with the traffic consultants. We've worked with all the different input. So we are excited to present this to you, and we are ready and open to receive any comments or questions that you may have to address those right away.
Mr.
so
Towers,
much.
Tom Wilson.
Council, do you have any questions?
Tom Wilson. Sorry.
Mr. Wilson, go ahead.
The project looks fantastic. And could you please put it up back on the screen, please, to the project? Thank you. As you know, that there are a lot of folks that live right behind you on Azalea Drive and down in that area. And their main concern is the noise from the shopping center that's going to leak into their areas. And we had talked to the prior developer, and he was kind enough to agree to put some trees in across there, more as a buffer zone and to help control some of that noise. Are you willing to do something?
Well, we actually had this addressed with us with the Plan Commission. Here's what I will tell you. I don't know if you've been back, Commissioner Little, if you've been down where those homes are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those homes are 60, 80 feet below. And so actually they're kind of hollowed out, and the traffic and noise will be above them.
No, they're thinking more like the garbage trucks and the delivery trucks and so forth, stuff like that are going to be in there throughout the day.
Yeah, and and the deliveries aren't but once, every couple days, and the garbage will be the same. And I have my partner Chris Sotos could address trucks, but let's start with Chris Perry of Wolpert. He's our engineer, and he can kind of get into the specifics of what's back here and what.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, sir.
Chris Perry is going to address the rear.
Mr. Perry.
Yes, hello there. This is Chris Perry. We're the engineers working with Key Development. In that buffer zone between the shopping center and the residences, we do have a significant amount of new landscaping that is going to be planted in that area. That'll be down closer to the house level. It's not up at the top level where the shopping center is.
Right. Okay.
But it will provide some nice landscaping for their backyards.
Good. I think that might help the whole situation.
Yep. And then at the top of the hill, so where the there is there's a 5-foot screen fence along with guardrail and such along that whole
Right,
curb
right.
line there.
Well, the screen fence isn't gonna prevent a lot of noise, but it'll prevent somebody from driving over that steep hill.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and Mr. Panko,
Yes, sir.
your exit onto Duff Road. I see you have an entrance and an exit onto Duff Road. The exit should only be a right turn, should not be a left turn, because you have traffic on Business 22 turning in from the red lights. You have traffic coming up Duff Road, and somewhere along the line there's and it's going to create big issues. And I would like to see you find a way to make sure that that traffic heads north on Duff Road, and let them turn around or whatever they have to do to go where they're going. But if you let a left turn lane there, it's very dangerous, sir.
And we have, I appreciate your comment. We've been working closely with HRG, which is the village's traffic consultant.
Yeah, well, I don't think they know what they're doing, because
Okay.
they
Well-
don't have a handle on this issue.
Well, we are also working and waiting for PennDOT and information coming back to us also. We've been working with,
What did PennDOT recommend?
we're waiting for that to come back. And so what we have done, and Bob can get into the specifics of this, but what we have done is we've taken that exit onto Duff Road and we've moved it to the north.
Yes.
And to make it more, the visibility, to increase the village visibility, to make a left, also to have it further away from the intersection of Route 22. So the stacking, which is what your concern was. So
Yes, sir.
Bob, do you want to address that at all?
Pardon me?
Yeah, I can address that. This is Bob Getz, Trans Associates. So as Mr. Panko said, that entrance exit on Duff got moved to the 5 feet. So what
So that would go where, Bob? Where would that?
do you see where the word variable is in parentheses on Duff? So our driveway now will be down in that area. And what
Okay.
that'll do is that'll pick up some additional storage, or we call it queuing length, up
Right.
to the
Right.
intersection.
Okay, from the intersection to northbound on the Duff Road, how far down would that be from the intersection on Duff Road?
Yeah, it's approximately
Including
300,
that exit.
300 feet.
I'm sorry?
300 feet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that sounds reasonable, so let's hope it works.
Bob, I have a question. What's there? Tim Little.
The plan was revised. We did not lose any parking. Essentially, it got flipped, if you could picture that. So the spaces you see there, really, I don't believe we lost any. I know Chris Perry, I believe, probably has the exact number on that.
Where are they going to be relocated to?
Chris, do you want to take that one, since it's a site related?
Yeah, basically, as we move that main entrance drive to the north, then the entrance drive has parking on it on the north side and the south side. So that little parking area that you see that's kind of offset, that goes away, and then the number of parks stays the same.
So it's just going to be somewhat visualized.
Yes.
All of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces are going to be pushed south. And is the intersection going to be pushed down, and then those places will be pushed more north?
Right.
Yeah, as the drive pushes north, then the parking pushes south.
Will those parking spaces remain there, Mr. Palco? Those 6?
1, 2, 3, 4. No, those are getting moved along the access road.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The other thing too is I want to let you know that that area is going to be designated within the reciprocal easement agreement for the shopping center, that area will be employee parking. So that we're going to try to have the employees park over there and then have more of the customer parking out in front by the different.
Thank you.
Well, Bob, so that's going to be designated employee parking. That whole area.
Not designated. We're gonna ask that the patrons have their employees park there.
Okay.
I don't know if it's designated.
The reason I ask, I mean, I'm just concerned looking at the plan here with the parking and the internal traffic flow. It seems a little tight. And I know you got a variance. I think you have, what, 31 spaces abated? Is that correct?
Paul, do you know?
I believe now, I'm sorry, I think, again, Chris might be better off answering that. I believe actually now though, we're because one of the uses was eliminated where the Gurman property is, that is no longer part of the site. And we did need that variance back when that was part of the site, but now it's not. So I believe we actually meet code on on-site parking.
You're talking about where the audio place is.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Paul, do you remember what our variance was for parking? Is Paul here?
I am here. I don't have it in front of me, but while you guys are discussing that, I can probably find it quickly.
Okay. I thought it was less than the 31 you mentioned, or.
So, I mean, is this space going to be developed right here? I mean, I don't know if you can see my cursor going back and forth.
I do. We actually, it's the Gurman parcel, and we are under contract. Right now, we're trying to find a user for it. We do plan to move forward and we plan on moving forward and closing on it. However, we need to have that independent of this development.
So if that does go in, where's the parking, the required parking going to go
It's
for
going to
that?
have to be on. It's going to have to be on site.
Okay.
Well, I personally would like to say what a great job it looks like for the development to even get started there. And I personally am very excited to have you guys come in and have something put there.
Thanks. And what I will let you know is we really do appreciate that. I'm holding my breath with the tenants and the lineup during this COVID year. It's been to have a development. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I'm hoping and praying that this whole thing still sticks together, so to speak. So I appreciate your comment.
I'll keep my fingers crossed with you as well, because I thought the exact same thing. But I mean, the site looks better than I could have ever thought it could look.
Yeah, and it's we're excited about it, and we're going to raise up the buildings a little bit for visibility, and then we're going to get into some other traffic conversations that we've had with Paul. Actually, since Friday afternoon, we got a letter, and we're going to be working with PennDOT and HRG so that we will adhere to their suggestions and make the site even flow even better than it is now.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Panko, you may have not, because we did have a public comment about this, and once again, we're in a Zoom era. But just as a courtesy to the resident that wrote in, they were concerned about the water runoff or potential water runoff. I don't know if you can speak about that, or if maybe it's something that Paul could chime in on about our regulations.
Paul, do you want to handle, or Chris Perry, the civil engineer?
Sure, I can start it off. This is Paul Wilden, the zoning officer. To the first point, the variance was to reduce the parking by 29 spaces. So I was able to find that information. As for stormwater, prior to the development, there were no controls on the site. The proposed development, there's a lot of on the site. So theoretically, the people downstream should see an improvement. If Mr. Panko's team would like to add anything to that, feel free.
Yeah, this is Chris Perry again with Wolpert. We're the civil engineer. We did receive some comments from Monroeville's consultant to the drainage. So our team is working with the consultant, kind of walking through those comments. The original stormwater management plan for this project and where all the water is getting collected and where it is going, we're pretty consistent with the original plan. It's just as this plan, the building locations a little bit differently, we've had to move some of the detention areas around. And then this project also has some underground detention in the parking lot. So we're pretty confident we're close with the Monroeville's consultant on the storm. So we should be in pretty good shape with addressing that.
Mr. Panko,
Okay, thank you.
There's a creek at the bottom of that build there. And it runs the whole way across Old William Penn Highway and behind some of the other businesses there. Now, where will the stormwater be released?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris Perry, because I appreciate you asking me, but Chris?
Yep, yeah, there's with the original development that Mr. Zerkaitis put together, there's a underground storm pipe that picks up all of the drainage that was south of William Penn that went through the property, still goes through the property, but now it's in pipes. And so those pipes go underneath the parking lot, go around the buildings, and then they exit the side of the property in the same location that stream.
Did they empty into the creek, Chris?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did they empty into that creek?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the total runoff is going to be a lot more than what was there past. And how much volume of water do you project to get out into that creek?
Well, one of the things is with the storm pipe that is collecting everything south of William Penn and running through the property, that's all what we call bypass stormwater. The entire parking lot and the buildings and all of the development that you see on the plan here, all of that is getting collected into detention basins and it's being slowed down back into that creek. So there's new detention for the entire development.
Right, so it slows it down and it shouldn't cause any flooding?
No, it'll all be, the way that the calculations work, it's all contained on site before it is released into the creek.
Okay, now.
And it's a
like I asked
controlled
you-
release.
Correct.
Like I asked you before, Chris.
Thank you.
Chris, what is the volume that you project that's going to be runoff there?
I'm sorry, but that I don't know that detail. I'd have to pull up the all the stormwater calcs to see what the total
Okay, why
volume
don't you
is.
get back to us on that? Give it to Tim and he'll get back to me.
Yep, we'll pull that up and we'll get it to him.
Thank you, sir.
And folks, if I could just get back to the public comment that received items was the traffic on Duff Road, which sounds like that's being addressed or looked at. The noise, which once again, that was mentioned. Lights at the top of the wall. Mr. Wilden, is there any issue as far as light cascading, as far as our ordinances? Are they following everything?
The lighting plan that was submitted shows that there's no spillage across the property line.
Property line starting at the parking lot or down to the bottom of the hill?
The bottom of the hill, that's where the property line is.
Okay, so
Not at
nothing's
the- not at the
cascading
property
beyond
line
that.
at the shopping center. Okay.
Very good. And lastly, the resident was concerned about possibly trash blowing down, garbage blowing down over the hillside. That is unfortunately a function of just living in a town and raccoons and wind. But I'm sure your dumpsters will all be fenced in appropriately with lids as we require.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
If there
Mr.
is,
Harvey, you had a question from earlier?
Mr. Palco, one more question here.
Mr. Wilson, let me get to Mr. Harvey. He's been waiting patiently.
If there is an issue with the garbage,
I'll come back to you, Mr. Wilson. Hang on.
debris falling over the hill, will you be willing to take care of that?
Repeat the question?
Yes. If there's an issue with the garbage, with the debris from some of the garbage blowing over that hill, would your folks be willing to take care of that issue?
Yes, we certainly will maintain our area and anything associated around our area.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
Mr. Harvey, please.
Gentlemen, the only question I have is most of council probably knows me for asking these questions. It's very difficult to see on the drawing here. I just wanted to make sure that emergency vehicle access for larger vehicles like the fire trucks and the ambulances can access the buildings like they should be able to. Radiuses there look a little tight.
Chris Perry?
Yep, this is Chris Perry again. So what we've done so far, which is make sure that the largest delivery truck possible, so it's what they call a WB67 truck, can come in off of William Penn Highway, and then it can back up into the grocery store, and then it leaves off of Duff Road. Your comment, though, is to make sure that any of the service vehicles can get around the building. So I do think we'll need to verify the bank and the two restaurants, verify that the emergency vehicles can get around those buildings. So we will check that.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for the applicants?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I'm gonna move my cursor. What is this block right here? You see it moving?
No.
Williams, I don't think they'll pick up your cursor from that screen.
Right there where the driveway is gonna go, there's a big square block right there on the parking lot. What is that block?
Where?
Bob, if you, where on, I mean, I can move my cursor. I'm right at the entranceway.
Right at the, they're gonna move their entrance down 75 feet. You come straight in from that. There's a big square block right there.
It might be a trash corral.
Who?
I'm wondering
Oh,
if,
no, wait. Where are we talking?
Where it says 3,000 square feet.
We're talking, if you move down 70, put the entrance. And if you go east, about 15 parking places, there's a big square baluster there, it looks to me.
Yeah, that is a trash enclosure, which that enclosure now has been moved to a new location. Once we put in that new driveway to Duff Road, that trash moved to actually a better location.
Okay, that was my question. The other thing is, when you're coming west on 22 and make a right turn in the parking lot, how much room is there from the curb to that first turn?
Okay, so I knew this would come up, but I appreciate it coming up. It's a great question. It was one of the concerns that HRG indicated to us, and we are working with Aldi and staff and HRG to move that right turn or that access point further down per their suggestions, and it will probably line up with where the proposed entrance is to get into Key Bank Mission Barbecue. So we're going to work with staff and HRG to make sure that that happens.
So that's all the way to the end there, to the north side of the buildings.
It will probably be at least 80, Bob or Chris, you want to take this one, but it's probably going to be at least 80 feet coming in off of Route 22.
Yeah, it's going to line up with the south side of the bank and Mission Barbecue.
Right here where my cursor is.
Correct.
To the end, to save any traffic. We wouldn't play bumper pool there.
Well, we agree, and we don't want any safety issues. And So we're still, this goes back into the poll where we're still waiting for PennDOT and their comments to come back. So here's what I will assure you is that your point is well taken, and we don't want any safety issues out here. And we're gonna need to, and we will work with staff and HRG and PennDOT to move that access point further to the rear of the property. And right now we're waiting for that feedback to determine how far back.
I mean, now your elevation is what, 5 feet below Route 22?
We are roughly 6 to 7 feet below.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Now, I would say that the sidewalks need to be at street level. Is that agreed on?
Yes, the sidewalks along William Penn will be at the William Penn elevation.
Okay, now, will you get PennDOT to, I'd like to see all them extra curb cuts redone as the original curb would be to the original integrity of the sidewalk.
Yeah, this is Bob Getz. Yes, they will be restored to full height curb where those existing curb cuts are.
Okay, all right. Now, the other thing is, you're talking about that screen fence back there. Could you make out a solid fence? That would sure make the neighbors happy, I believe. And is there going to be a guardrail in front of it for the cars to bump into?
Yeah, there's a 5-foot fence on top, and I'll have to verify as far as what material it is as far as screening goes, but I'm pretty sure it's a screening fence. And then there is a physical DOT guardrail in front of, meaning where the cars are at,
Okay.
to
You have a
protect
picture
the
of that
cars
fence?
and protect the fencing and all that.
You have a picture of that fence to show us?
We will get one. It's the same detail that they had that the original project had, so we'll pull that up.
So it's something we already had agreed upon?
Correct.
Okay, that's all the comments I have at this point. I'd like to see those improvements on a plan.
He's saying it right now.
Yeah, so
Mr.
just
Williams,
good questions.
Mr. Wheeler,
As far as the planning commission,
did they approve
approve this as is,
or is it
with also with some of, they approve with the change speaking of?
It was pretty much as is. Some of the things that council have mentioned tonight are in addition to planning commission. I do remember when the plan was originally approved by for Frank Zakaitis, the fence at the top of the slope, it was a chain link fence that had the like aluminum slats put in it, so it essentially becomes a solid fence.
And would you guys agree to that?
Yeah, yes, that's what we have on our plans.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So is there a list of the items? There's been a couple here, and that's maybe part of the confusion. So we
what
the council wants to make sure they're approving
they're approving?
the complete item. So
Can we make a motion to include the improvements that have been discussed this evening?
Mr. Ratcher, if you could weigh in on that.
Well, if you like, you can do that, you can approve it subject to seeing the revised plan.
Okay,
I don't know how you look at, like, say, an emergency vehicle access.
Thank you, Ron. I was going to bring that up.
And approve it. I don't,
well, but he's saying we can approve it as long as they make those necessary changes. And Mr. Wilden, you would have a list of those to work with the developer.
Yes, I've made a list as they've come up this evening, and in addition to that, our fire official has generated a comment letter which has been sent to the developer. So we already have emergency vehicle access being addressed.
Can you read that letter?
I do not have the letter in front of me. It's in the file.
Mr. Wielden, if you could, list that you have been notating here.
Okay, I have, Mr. Wilson wants trees shown on the plan. I looked at the landscaping plan while other comments were being made. There are trees and shrubs shown on the plan, so that one's already taken care of. Mr. Harvey wanted emergency vehicle access to be approved. Our fire official is already reviewing that. Mr. Williams wants to shift the Aldi's entrance, the internal entrance to the Aldi's. We've already discussed that as well, and I believe that will be shifted. We're waiting for final comments from PennDOT, but that is most likely going to move. Fill in the old curb cut. Mr. Getz said that those will be filled in. There was a request for solid fence. The detail on the plan already calls for a solid fence. And that was all that I had.
Wait, the moving of the entrance off Duff Road.
Oh, yeah, I didn't have that written in there because that's already been determined. It's going to happen.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, for us to be able to see it.
Okay, yeah, certainly. That's going to be on the next set of plans that comes in.
Okay.
I have a question too for Mr. Pango, and these are two separate pieces of property right here. They're subdivided off. Is there a lease agreement? Is there a lease as far as reciprocal parking? Because of these restaurants, the bank will be closed at night in these restaurants. And if this one goes in here, advantageous for you, and maybe you already have it for this to have some kind of a parking agreement. So if it is needed, let's say at 9, 10 o'clock at night when maybe Aldi, I don't know what time Aldi closes, but parking could be used over here. Is that something that's been thought about or is already done?
It's already in the works. We will have a reciprocal easement agreement and REA that will have cross access and cross parking throughout the entire shopping center.
Okay.
Mr. Panko, as we move on this a little bit, do you have anything to present for the public hearing?
I got one more question, Mr. Mayor.
I'll come back to you in a second, Mr. Williams. I would to get from the developer and his associates, if anyone would like to add anything for the public hearing portion. Certainly, more questions will allow you to answer those, but I just want to make sure that you guys get all your information out there. So, Mr. Peck, anything else this evening?
No, we don't have. You were cutting it out, but I don't believe we have anything else. I'm more happy to answer any other questions or concerns.
Very good. Mr. Williams, you had another comment or question?
Yeah, I got another comment and question. Aldi's looks wonderful. When you come 22, you're going to see light from the building spewing out on the parking lot. Now, that's always nice. Them other two buildings, the front seem to be to the north side. Can they design that back side so at least it looks like appealing to the traffic flow, maybe with some windows or something in the back side? That would be on the south side of the buildings.
Architecture, we're not looking at the architecture yet.
That's the front of their buildings, and they will have, they'll have their entrances with glass and signage, and it will. I mean, it's going to be a first class center with their most modern design features. So,
well, you're talking the north side of the buildings.
No, they'll all face 22.
yes,
They're all going to face, the entrances are going to face 22.
The
yes, sir.
signage. Yes.
So the south side of the building for the bank, Mission Barbecue, and Taco Bell is the front, and Aldi is a west and south facade, which feature with glass
Aldi's is
and their
beautiful.
typical trade dress.
Yeah, Aldi's is beautiful. I'm concerned with other two buildings facing 22, that it would be aesthetically pleasing to the eye as you
They
pass.
are.
Okay.
Will we not see more drawings that show like what the buildings are going to look like?
I believe you have elevations?
No, not just
Yeah.
elevations, but kind of like a drawing showing us what the buildings are going to look like, the
A
materials, the,
Those are elevations.
For lot 22, what's the building's gonna look like?
This is Paul Wilden. We have some of those on file already. I can send PDFs to anybody that wishes to see them, or you can stop by my office.
Hey, Paul,
okay.
can you email now?
Sure. Yep.
I'd like to see them for,
Clear up the meeting. If I get them up, I will.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Williams, that may answer the question you're asking.
yes. When I go out 286 and see the two buildings we let them put in there, you pass the side of the building. There's no windows or nothing.
I think this is proposed to face 22.
Yes.
And if I could, as an administrative function, and maybe this was covered and I may have missed it, the two items we're considering.
The first,
Item is the applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct 4 buildings, grocery store, bank, 2 restaurants,
the next item,
which is the one we're currently in with the public hearing.
they're asking additional
Additional use,
as amended.
permit 3 principal structures on 1 property.
I make a motion to approve it.
Well, and I guess my question is though, that's saying 3 principal structures on 1 property versus
The
4
fourth,
buildings.
I know that,
Typed appropriately
Mayor, do we need to,
because of the split.
The Aldi's is by itself.
that explains.
Explain. Thank you.
Mayor, do we need to close the public hearing before we can vote?
I
But
believe Mr.
yes,
will
we'll have,
have to,
but
but I
I
didn't know if Mr. Little was trying to get the,
images.
Well, continue on. Don't hold up the meeting. Continue on with the meeting, and I can show those elevations to me. I can show them to council as we move along here. If that's pending upon the approval, then obviously that's,
It's not for me.
that was my concern.
So can
Any other items for the public hearing?
Mayor?
You have anything for the public hearing part?
No, go ahead and close.
Mr. Ratch, one more item for the public hearing, please.
Mr. Panko, just one question we want to get on the record here, and that is, with respect to the changes that you indicated would take place on the site plan, we do have a record of those. There is a record being made of this meeting. We just want to get your consent that in fact you do intend to make the revision that you recommended and indicated that you were going to make. Just want to get your consent on that.
Yes, we appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Very good.
And there's our elevation drawings,
Walker.
our elevation images.
Very nice. Mhm.
Keep going.
Okay, I would
I'd like to seek a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
roll call.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mr. Panko and Associates, thank you for
Joining us.
this meeting. It is definitely not the type of meeting we want to run. We appreciate your patience and we appreciate developing or in our community. The whole community has been really watching this site for a long time and we're really anxious to see something happen at the site. So closing the public hearing. And council, I'm looking for some guidance here on
Motion.
these items.
Wait.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Gatos, are you making a motion to approve which one?
Both.
Both
Both
items.
items.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to approve both items?
I'll second it.
We have a motion second to approve both these items. That's 20-4-ST and 20-6-C. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Arcinico,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram, Mr. Wolfram,
So he has his mute on. Steve,
Hit your space bar, Steve.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos.
aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Danko, thank you and good luck with your project. And we look forward to working with you and seeing this through.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Council, moving over to our next item, item number 4, under our new business, 20-6-ST 4301 Northern Pike Partners LLC, Starbucks.
Mayor, we received late word in an email that the applicant would like to table this pending PennDOT's review on the traffic analysis.
Mr. Little, are they, this is to table all 3 items?
Correct.
Okay, so the applicant has requested tabling. That's tabling of a 20-6-ST, 20-4 SUB, -C. I'm seeking a motion to table.
Motion to table all 3.
Second,
Motion second. Roll call, please, to table.
Mrs. Gatos,
aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arcinico,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Council, our 7th item,
20-5-D. Mr.
Yes, this is a applicant's requesting a conditional use approval to install a 150 square foot billboard pursuant to the Monroeville zoning ordinance 1443 as amended, section 307.14 billboards. The property is located at 2660 Monroeville Boulevard, tax parcel 638S028 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. This is a public hearing. Any testimony will have to be sworn in, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Is the applicant joining us?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Dale, right?
Yes, sir.
Welcome. And do you have any other associates with you?
Yes. Yes.
If you
Can
could
you
identify,
identify, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Attorney Alex Brown. I'm representing Dale Financial in this land use matter, conditional use application.
welcome. Okay.
Okay.
Gentlemen, this is a public hearing item, so I'm going to be swearing you in. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes,
And I ask for a promise that I'm actually, will you swear to that as well? I guess we'll make it official.
Yes.
yes.
Thank you.
If you want to start
with describing your project.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council, I appreciate you staying up late to serve your community, especially when everything's going on. Our business located in Greensburg, headquartered in Greensburg. We have signs from Huntington, Pennsylvania to Huntington, West Virginia, though. It's a family-owned business, started by my father in 1993, and I've run it since. Like I said, we are family-friendly. We only do family-friendly advertising. Our goal is to provide advertising and exposure for local businesses.
Kevin, can you give us an example to advertise on that board, please?
Or to show the TV set what they're saying.
Yes, sir. We're looking at car dealerships, jewelry stores, attorneys, things of that nature. we don't want anything up there that would be inappropriate to any kind of family-oriented community like this is.
I do have one issue that the sign being right there at the corner, when you make that bend there on the right lane, I guess that's west. However, could that be a distraction? I'm wondering if that could be a distraction with that sign being at that point.
Well, I think if you think about it another way, it won't block any kind of traffic signal of any
No, I
kind. It won't block
understand
any
that,
other signage.
But my issue is with the flashing of the different advertisements that you're gonna have up there. And people sometimes get mesmerized with those type of things, and
Jesus.
hopefully it won't be an issue.
No, there are other signs in that stretch that do blink. Ours, however, will have to be static for 8 seconds at a time. It has no moving motion.
Thank you.
I'm unclear where his sign is exactly going.
Thank you. Were you given a site plan?
Yeah, we have a mock-up on our screen currently. Mr. Little, I'm not sure if you're controlling that or if it's Tina, but if you could zoom in an image, that may help.
Yeah, good. Yeah, right there, Linda, right there.
Good, show the sideways one.
Roll it up.
There should have been a site plan submitted with the application as well, an engineered site plan.
No, I do not have, I'm sorry, Mayor, I do not have a site plan.
No, Mr. Little, the image, if you could scroll this image up.
It's a quarter mile from the municipal building.
Go to the next image.
At the Meineke.
I can't, it's a static picture. I can't, if you're talking
Well,
about,
Tim, where on that picture are we talking about?
right here,
Where is,
the municipal building will be back this way.
right, but on this picture, where, is it where the trees are, where the Meineke sign is, where the red car is?
Yes, actually, that's the answer I'm trying to get. So there was another image that was just up there that has a mock-up of the billboard.
I didn't see that at all.
Scroll down. There, rotate,
Keep going.
There.
there.
Is that,
Now
Now
we're
By the Meineke sign.
oh, right next to the Meineke sign?
Yes.
Right.
Is it beside the building, in front of the building?
It's in the small piece of property. It's on the bend, that the road bends right there, folks.
Who's,
The property is owned by Joseph Hochdorfer.
He owns also Meineke.
so it's the Meineke owner's property?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Is it going on the existing parcel, Meineke, or is this a separate parcel?
There's only one parcel there, Mayor.
Okay.
And is this a joint venture with Meineke?
It is not. I have an agreement with him to utilize the land.
For free?
No, certainly not. I wish I could figure out a way to do that, though.
Mr. Wheelman, could
You discuss this as far as the planning commission's concerned and your office is concerned?
Yes, through my review, I went through our billboard section of ordinance, of our zoning ordinance, and it appears that they have met all of the requirements.
Mayor,
Even this size?
Yes, even the size. The ordinance permits up to a 10 by 15 billboard, 10 foot by 15 foot, 150 square feet, and that is the size that is proposed.
And why is it a conditional use then?
All billboards are a conditional use.
Okay.
Well, that's one of my, did it meet all our ordinances and et cetera? And apparently, Paul, you took care of that, so I'm okay.
I just worry about the lights on a bend as people are approaching and paying attention as they go around that bend.
Mayor,
It is an LED billboard, and the brightness can be monitored and adjusted. That was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting, and Mr. Dale assured us that if it is too bright, it will be reduced, and we can work with him, after the sign is installed.
And we have no say-so over what's put on that billboard. If he changes his mind and decides to put up something that we're not happy with, we don't have any say.
Correct, yes.
I'd like to make a statement. I don't think Monroeville needs another billboard.
I just asked that question.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
My concern is intensity or brilliance to cause glare or impair the vision of a driver of any vehicle. Now, some years ago, I was towing a trailer out west, and as my wife was driving, she got her eyes fixed on a billboard going around the curve and lost control of the vehicle. My concern is that it'll impair the driver's concentration, especially on a bend.
What I said, Mr. Williams, I agree with you.
And that's a bad bend right there.
I'm very concerned about the safety of the location.
Well, this is Attorney Alex Brown on behalf of Mr. Dale. I want to address a couple points that have just been brought up.
Thank you.
First of all, the issue of whether there are too many billboards in Monroeville, and if this billboard is approved, that's going to essentially exceed, we could call it critical mass of billboards. That's just not under the ordinance and under Pennsylvania law for land use and conditional uses, proper consideration for this particular council to make. The bottom line is, under Pennsylvania law, does this billboard application meet all of the objective qualifications and requirements, and the way that the design has been rendered does meet those requirements? And then the issue as to glare has been discussed in our materials that were submitted to the council, and it meets all of the requirements as to the number of foot candles and whether those foot candles are projected onto areas outside of the parcel. And Kevin, he wants to jump in on this.
Yeah, a couple of the council members have brought up the fact that it's on a curve and they're worried about safety. Safety is obviously our number one concern as well. I do want to note, typically every sign we build is 3 feet from the right of way. This sign, however, will be much further from the right of way because there's a power line that's on that property. And we spoke with Duquesne Light, far away from that power line, another 10 feet further than the line is itself, which pushes us much further from the right of way than is typical. It's hard to see that in the rendering. If you had the site plan, you could see that a little better. The foot candle is a measurement that's an industry standard. Monroeville already has a very low foot candle, so the brightness will not be as bright as you might see in other areas, which is a good rule, really. It's a conservative rule, which is, I think, is a good standard. And as far as safety is concerned, PennDOT has done numerous studies to determine the safety and efficiency of signs on its roadways. And this specific location, especially with the size right away, would certainly be deemed appropriate under PennDOT standards, which are typically more stringent than local municipalities.
If I could jump in real quickly, Kevin, is there going to be an issue with whether, if this sign is constructed, that it will interfere with what's called the clear sight triangle for visibility purposes?
I don't believe so, since it's not at a street intersection. Mr. Wielden, do you have a comment on that, though?
You broke up a little bit there. Can you say that again?
We were asking if there's any problem with it interfering with the clear sight triangle. I don't believe there's an intersection anywhere near there, though.
No, it doesn't interfere with the sight triangle. There's no intersection, and the billboard is well above where people would be looking for traffic.
The nice thing about this location is there are a number of signs up and down that street, which could also grab someone's attention, if you will. It's not like this is going to be the only thing to be seen in a long stretch of highway in the west or something like that.
I have one more question.
Certainly.
You're putting a sign there where you're going to actually either be advertising, making money. You're sharing a property with Meineke on their property. Do we not have to subdivide that property to allow this? It's not Meineke signs and it's on their property.
Certainly.
This
We
is-
have,
Principal uses on one parcel.
I'm sorry, did someone else begin to say something? I missed what they said.
Yeah, I was asking is this may be considered two principal uses on
One property.
one property or one parcel?
Correct. That is my question.
Sure, and I'll be glad to respond to that. So under the ordinance, this would be considered not a second principal use. This would be considered as defined as a billboard or an outdoor advertising sign under section 1443 of the Monroeville zoning ordinance. The definition of a billboard under that ordinance is, quote, a sign displaying changeable advertising copy which pertains to a business, organization, event, person, place, service, or product not principally located or sold on the premises upon which said sign, end quote. So the
I
ordinance
would like to
itself,
ask my attorney, our solicitor, for his opinion, please.
Paul Wilden,
Yes, sir.
does the zoning ordinance does table 201 classify billboards as a principal or accessory use?
It just labels it as a conditional use. It doesn't label it as principal or accessory.
Okay, it would be my opinion that it would be considered a principal use. So you would have a situation where you had two principal uses on one lot.
Well, I know we're still in the public hearing, but after hearing more and more of the testimony and from my colleagues on council, I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to push to deny.
Can I make a motion?
Well, before we get into voting, we are still in a public hearing.
Well, that's what I said when the public
Correct,
hearing.
I know you did, thank you. The applicant, I'll give you one more, if you have any other comments before we close.
so I'll just begin just by addressing the principal use issue. The ordinance defines this billboard as a conditional use. So it is not classified as a principal use for the property. It is something that can be added to a parcel that is, this is why this parcel, which is dedicated to a Meineke car care facility, is allowed to host a billboard under the ordinance. If the billboard itself pertained to Meineke car care, if it was like a second Meineke car care sign, then I think there could be an argument made that the billboard is not proper for that particular parcel. But in this situation, the zoning ordinance itself has allocated and it permitted such a billboard as this one, which does not pertain to the same use as the rest of the property is dedicated to, for that billboard to be allowed to exist. So I disagree that it would be considered a principal use that would have to be subdivided off from the car care parcel. I think because the ordinance, the way it is worded and the way that a billboard is defined in the ordinance is in effect admitting that a billboard is going to be accessory to the primary use for the property, which in this case is a Meineke car care facility.
I'm sorry, but this
Thank you for your
leads me
testimony.
to believe that any business can put a sign like this on their property and try and use the same logic. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree with it. That's my personal opinion.
Well,
I'm going to take the legal advice of my solicitor that this is not fitting in that zoning ordinance, and that's what I think.
before we get into our councilmatic comments, based on if there is either to vote for it, deny it, or table it, I would like to seek a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
There's a motion, second, roll call, please.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Can we go back to the regular screen?
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasinko,
aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson,
He said yes, Sharon.
Public hearing's closed. Now, council, is there anyone want to take action on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one comment.
Aye.
thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Am
Mr. Harvey.
I good? I just think this is just my personal outlook on how I read what just went down here. And I think the ordinance, I think they met the ordinance. I think we just put them through. If you guys didn't want it, we should have just voted and got it out of here. I think they did everything they needed to do to put up a sign. And we kept digging and digging and digging and digging until we found 50 reasons why, well, maybe we shouldn't do it. Just my opinion, just letting you know. I think they met their obligation.
Mr. Harvey, I'm afraid that you're opening up the door for a lot more of these to happen without really resolving the question on the table.
Well, then change the ordinance.
Maybe it's an interpretation, but that's kind of where I think we are.
Okay.
Well, council, does anyone want to make any motion? A motion to approve,
I'd like to-
deny, or to table, and then once we do that, I will take further comment after we get something on the table.
I'd like to make a motion to table it for further review to get a better interpretation of the ordinance as whether they've met it or not.
I second it.
Perfect.
We have a motion and a second to table.
What, Mr. Mayor?
Pending further review.
We have to take the vote on the table.
But I made the motion to deny first.
He did.
Right.
Motion for table takes precedent,
Okay,
but your motion to deny will be notated. However, roll call vote, if you vote in the affirmative, we're tabling this. If you're voting negatively, the motion fails to table, we will consider Mr. Cinco's motion. So the motion and the second to table, roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
No.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Arasinko,
no.
Mr. Wolfram,
No.
Mr. Harvey,
No.
Mr. Poach,
Yes.
Mrs. Gatos.
No.
The motion fails to table, Mr. Coach. Mr. Arasinko,
I'd like to make a motion to deny.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to deny. Voting affirmative denies the applicant. Voting negatively makes that motion. Call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
No.
Mr. Harvey,
No.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Hold on. I'm voting no I'm sorry. I want to vote yes to deny it.
Yes to deny.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So your vote is yes, the ayes have it, the motion fails. I'm sorry, the motion passes. The applicant has been denied. Application denied.
Correct. Correct.
Council, moving over to our resolutions. We have one resolution this evening. This is a resolution to appoint to the Restructuring Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board. This is a two-part thing because we went through our appointment nomination earlier in the meeting, which we always do.
I'm
This
sorry.
being
There's
the zoning hearing board and also being an expansion of the zoning hearing board. That's the difference here. Is we expanded it, these are new positions. We're not filling old positions. These are new positions that were just created last month. Therefore, for the MPC, the Municipal Planning Code, we have to use our resolution. So we've already satisfied the home rule charter by our appointment and nomination earlier. But now this resolution needs to be done for the MPC. So it's a two separate entities. It's a bookkeeping item. Michael Gatos was appointed earlier in the meeting
That's better.
or to serve a 5-year term ending on December 31st, 2025. Since there were 3 seats available in the zoning hearing board, this was the only appointment that was made this evening. We'll be voting exclusively on Michael Gatos just for this one slot, unless there is anyone else that wanted to be appointed, any council members that wanted to appoint anyone else to the zoning hearing board this evening.
Mayor, I'd like to appoint Gary Grisek to the board. He was nominated on 12/8, and he's been on the board. This is his second term, and he told us that he wanted to continue on the board because, and the president of the board said that he's doing. So I would like to appoint Gary Grisek,
And is this for the
zoning hearing board.
4-year term or the 3-year term?
This is for 2-year term.
No, it'd be either the 4-year term or
On my paper, it says 2 years, so I'm sorry.
you may have the wrong copy in front of you.
Okay. Well, whatever his term would be, I'd like to appoint Gary.
Okay, the longer term ends on December 31st, 2024. If Gary wants to get off there earlier, it would be December 31st, 2023. So it's a 4-year term or a 3-year term are the two options.
21.
Wilson, I want
Right.
clarification from you.
We're saying a 3-year term. Yes, sir.
Okay.
For Gary Grisiak.
Yeah, so I have a motion. Mr. Wilson has a motion to appoint Gary Grisiak to the zoning hearing board for the 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2023. Roll call, please.
I didn't hear a second to that. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Sharon. Thank you. Mr. Wilson's making a motion to appoint Gary Grisiak. Is there a second on that motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
No.
Mr. Poach,
No.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Wolfram,
Yes.
Mr. Arsenko. Mr. Arsenko,
You're muted, Greg.
You're muted, Mr. Arsenko.
I'm still muted.
You're still muted.
Mr. Arsenko, we're looking for your vote on
Mr.
this
Grisiak.
item.
There you go. You're good.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what you want.
For some reason, I couldn't hear
Okay,
anything. What was the vote on that? On
Mr. Arsenko, the vote, the motion, the second was to appoint Gary Grisiak to the 3-year term for the zoning hearing board. He is, he's already currently on the board and it's a renewal.
It's reappointing.
Mr. Arsenko,
How did that? I didn't hear the votes. For some reason, my computer is going goofy.
Well, what is your vote?
I'm going to say nay. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm voting for, but no, because I don't know. I'm sure what everybody's doing.
Why don't you suspend?
Well,
Are you-
read off the
You're clear though
motion.
that you know what you're voting on though. You heard the motion in the second, correct?
No, I'm telling you, my computer went a little haywire. So no, I'm not voting for something I don't know what I'm voting for. So my vote is no.
I can,
Or you could abstain.
Pay attention, Greg.
Your vote's no.
I'm losing everybody again.
Mr. Wolf,
I already voted.
yeah,
All
he-
right.
and Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
1, 2. I have 3 noes,
after all of that, the ayes have it.
4 ayes, yes.
Confusion, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
This is-
Sorry about folks. I apologize. I'm not sure whatever. Confused.
All right, so now the resolution that we're voting on now, what I'm seeking, the resolution that I'm actually seeking guidance on here, is right there on your screen. The first slot will be for Michael Gatos to serve the 5-year term ending December 31st, 2025, and for Gary Griziak to serve a 3-year term, slot number 3, ending on December 31st, 2023. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
A second.
Motion is second. Is everyone clear? Very
Yeah.
good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
I'm sorry, what's the vote?
We are confirming the resolution that we just worked through. So we're voting for the zoning hearing board. This is for the MPC, secondary to our home rule charter, for Michael Gatos, the 5-year term, and Gary Griziak for the 3-year term for the resolution. So you're voting for the resolution.
I can't vote for one of
No, I'm sorry, Tom. What you're voting on, the whole document is just confirming basically what we just voted for, our nominations and our appointment, or our appointments. So your
I'm
vote is
sorry.
yes,
his vote is yes?
please.
His vote is yes?
His vote is yes. You voted, did you vote, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. I said aye.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you. Mr. Williams,
No.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey,
This meeting, aye.
Can we?
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Coach, I'm sorry. Mr.
Aye.
Coach? Mrs. Gatos,
Abstain.
thank you.
The ayes have it. Council, moving over to our ordinances. Mr. Ratcher, please.
This is an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the execution of a cable franchise agreement between the municipality and Verizon Pennsylvania LLC.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Comments or questions?
Come on.
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Hey, Tim, take that down. Can't see anything. Thank you.
Mr. Coach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey, Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye. Sorry.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving over to reports of municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher, do you have anything else to add this evening?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for unmuting. Mr. Little, floor is yours. If you want to go through your report, please.
Yes, the first item under my report is the debt service restructuring that we've talked about at a budget hearing. We talked about at a December. And zooming in with me on this for council is Jamie Doyle and Chris Bamber from Public Financial Management. And they are going to go through and explain what I mentioned to council today in an email on their presentation on what we received this past Monday with respect to an RFP, a request for proposal on a bank note. As I mentioned to council at the hearing and also at the December council meeting, this was a dual nature type of debt restructuring, which we went for. We could go through a bond or we could do a bank note. The RFPs for a bank note have come in on Monday, and either Chris, are you there? Tina, can you let them in?
Good evening. I'm Jamie Doyle from Public Financial Management, and hopefully Chris is able to unmute as well.
Good evening.
Great. So it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. We will keep this brief. If you look at page 1 of our handout, as Mr. Little mentioned, the idea was to restructure some of your debt and basically smooth it down at a lower level to give you cash flow relief in the next couple of budget years. And if you scroll down a little bit more, Mr. Little also described the dual track process. So you can see RFP results. There's a red box drawn around that's where we are as of this evening. If you scroll down a little bit further, we distributed the bank loan RFP to 30 local, regional, and national banks. And we'll look at a summary of those proposals in a minute, but the low cost, true interest cost, which is how we evaluate the proposals, was received from JP Morgan Chase Bank, and they included an indicative fixed rate of 1.16% for the taxable note and 1.11% for the tax exempt note. And so we'll look at what that means in just a minute. If you scroll to the next page, you can see that interest rates have continued to hover near the all-time low levels. So that's very good for a transaction such. And if you scroll to the bottom of that page, you can see a blow up of the red box. Yep, a little bit further down. There we go. To really get a good look at what has happened in the market over calendar year 2019 and 2020. So very, very close to all-time low rates right now. If you look at the next page, you will see a summary of the 6 different bank loan proposals that we received. And as I mentioned, the low rate, low cost proposal came from JP Morgan Chase. And you can see again that 1.16% on the taxable series and 1.11% on the tax exempt. Their proposal includes a $7,500 bank fee, which basically goes to their counsel, their lawyer on their side of the table. And the combined true interest cost of their proposal, meaning all in boiled down to one number, is just under 1.16%. The average annual debt service payment based on their proposal is $1,443,688 a year. And that is right on top of the preliminary numbers that we had shared with Mr. Little when we began this process. So this proposal came in pretty much right exactly where we hoped it would. Their proposal also in columns 7 and 8, it is non-callable, which is okay because this is a very, very short issue. We would expect it to be non-callable. And in column 8, their rates are indicative, and their JP Morgan rates are always indicative in their proposal. And then, based on market conditions, they may change by, a widget. I'll call it a couple of basis points, 0.01, 0.02%, a couple of basis points. But we'd be able to actually lock that in for your February 9th voting meeting, which is when you would take the official action to accept their proposal if you so choose. So just looking down column 5, you can see the cover bid came from Webster Bank, and I'm not going to go through all these, but the point being, even though that looks like a 9 basis point, 9.5 basis point differential in true interest cost rate, when you equate that in dollars in column 6, it's roughly $3,300 a year or so. And so not a huge difference. So if we go the bank loan route, which is what we are recommending, it would be the JP Morgan Chase proposal. At the very bottom of that page, we compare that winning bank loan proposal to the public bond markets as of the date of receipt. And so you can see the public bond markets right now are a little bit lower. And I'm jumping to column 13 in the red there when I say this, the true interest cost in the public bond market right now is just under 0.95%. And in average annual debt service dollars in column 14, that's annual debt service of $1,436,000 and change per year. However, there's more interest rate risk in the public bond market because we're not able to lock that rate in at all until your February 9th meeting. So the bond market has more interest rate risk right now than the JP Morgan Chase proposal does. I mean, their rate is indicative, but their rates don't tend to fluctuate very much, a couple of basis points, as I mentioned. The bond issue would also be non-callable. And again, the main detractor of the bond issue is just the extra interest rate risk until we could get to point of pricing. And the reason it takes a little bit longer to get to point of pricing on a bond issue is it takes 3 weeks to get a credit rating, and there are some additional documents that are required on a bond issue, such as the prospectus or the preliminary official statement, it's called. If you go, I'm sorry.
What is the principle?
Next page, you will see that. Perfect timing, great question. So this illustrates the JP Morgan Bank proposal. So on the Series A taxable series, which restructures a portion of your 2017 bonds and extends the term a little bit on the 2017s, you can see the principal is $2,115,000 in that top box number 1. And if you look down below, you can see in box 4, the cost of stretching that out a little bit is about rounding up slightly, $88,000 over the life. And if you present value that cost, also in box 4, you can see that present value cost in today's dollars is just under $43,000. And then you can see down below in column 10 what that taxable service would look like. Likewise, in column 2, in the orangish color column, on the tax exempt note, which would refund the 2015 bonds, the term would stay the same, and you can see the principal amount is $3,545,000. And then down below in column 5, you can see the 2015 bonds actually generate savings. So, in gross future value dollars, that's about $6,600 of net savings. And when you present value that, it's about $71,000 of net savings. And then down below in column 11, you can see what the amortization on this series would look like. So that at the end of the day, in the green, starting at the top in box 3, total principal between the $5,660,000. In box 6, the future value cost would be about $81,000, which is pretty much right on target with our original projections. And then when you present value that number back to today's dollars, it's actually net savings of $28,331. And most importantly, in column 12, what you're left with at the end of the day for the 2021 budget year and through and including 2026, which is where your debt service always went out to, same year, 2026. But you're level at $1,443,000, I'll call it a year on average. And so in column 13, it quantifies how much your payments go down for 2021 and 2022 And then basically where we're putting that debt is in 2023 through 2026. We're smoothing you down and leveling you off at that 1,443,000 a year on average. If you look at the next page, the last page in our handout, you'll see our timeline. So tonight, January 12th, we're discussing the dual track results. And if you would like to proceed with the bank loan proposal from JP Morgan Chase, we would be back with all the paperwork in order for your approval at your February 9th voting meeting. And then that would allow for 15th. So February 9th is the key date. And that's we'll be working with the entire team, your solicitor, your bond counsel, JP Morgan Chase, of course. And, we'd be finalizing those exact rates for that February 9th meeting. And like I said, that's their normal business model. They give an indicative rate, and then it may or may not, wiggle around a couple of basis points, but it's always, pretty close to the indication that they've given. So I will pause there and answer any questions that you have.
I do have a question. That $7,500 fee from 1.12 to 1.27%, how long would it take us to recoup that? At 0%, at one, on the first page.
The $7,500 bank fee?
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
This is Chris from PFM. I think what the answer or the question was basically, how is that money repaid or how is that money recouped from the bank fee? So it's all included in the total amount of the borrowing. So basically, the amount of the borrowing is increased by $7,500 to pay for that fee.
I
So
understand that. My question is, the next proposal was 0 bank fee.
So
$500.
So 0 was number 3, 4, and 5 on the proposal list there. And again, all of those fees you see in column 4 are included in the true interest cost in column 5 and are included in column 6 in that average annual aggregate debt service, because Chris is exactly right. The fees of the transaction are already budgeted for and included and would be paid from loan proceeds.
And that's
So
still the lowest payment of all of them.
Of all the bank loan proposals, yes,
Yes,
exactly.
even inclusive with that 75.
Yeah. Yes.
Looking
So
down
that's
the column.
a great question. That's exactly why we boil everything down into
The net
true
numbers.
interest cost in column 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to restructure it with the JP Morgan Chase Bank.
I'm gonna second it.
Well, before what we're looking for here this evening, basically is the authorization to advertise. So if I can get it up on the,
Mr. Williams, do you want to just make a motion to advertise and I'll second you?
I will seek a motion to advertise.
And I will second that.
Okay, there's a motion,
Motion
a
a
second
to authorize the advertising. So this is not to approve this item. This is only to approve that we're going to advertise it at next month's meeting.
Correct.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
2 ayes.
Mr. Osenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The ayes have it. We'll advertise that for next month. Mr. Little, next item for you.
okay, Jamie and Chris, thank you very much. I'll be talking to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, good
Night.
job. I believe I have up on, I'll go through this rather quickly, is that we have the histogram on our revenues each month. I believe that's the next thing on the, revenue trends. Basically, the wage tax has dipped down a little bit. It was right even with 2017. It's dipped down a little bit, but we're still holding it better, as I've said all year long, better than than I thought we would. But everybody can see these right here, and I'm not going to go through them individually for the sake of brevity. Council has those in their on their website. They can take a look at them. Unless anybody has any questions on those. Okay, next item is a resident is requesting a street light on at 147 Kelvington Drive. That is in your packet. Does anybody have any questions about the putting up a street light on Drive?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko,
Mr. Arsenko, if you could hit your space bar.
Aye.
thank you. Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Mr. Little, anything else this evening?
Yeah, and one last thing I want to let council know, some of you do know, we have received a grant in the amount of $243,000 some dollars from the DCNR for the Valley Bridge, a pedestrian bridge that, if council remembers, that we had a design that I think this is going back 2.5 years ago. Now, it is a matching grant. And we have about 2 years to match that and to have a walking bridge coming over from the Westmoreland Trail over to Valley Park, which if council agrees, I think that would be a great amenity, provided that we can afford the match.
Well, they're also gonna add a bathroom, pavilion.
That is correct.
And can we take the money from the $1 million fund?
From the pool, I think maybe we look at the pool money, since it's gonna be for the park department anyway.
That's a council decision.
Mr. Little, what's the amount of the grant?
I think it's $243,000
Yeah.
there.
Well,
Is
did
it a
receive 200.
one-to-one match?
That's it.
Parks and Rec, and if you combine that with the pool money, you're at $1.1 million, too, something like that.
You have to match that grant money for that exact project.
Sorry?
You have to match that money of 243,000 to that exact project.
Correct, and what I'm saying is you take the 950,000 or 60,000 from the pool sale, and you take the 240-some thousand that we just got given to the Parks and Rec, and you combine those totals and you come out to like $1.2 million, that's a good start.
You only need 400.
400. You only need 256, yeah, to match it.
You only
I'm
need
sorry?
240 to match it.
Oh, I thought it was 204 million.
No, Tom, this was something that Recreation put towards this. We saw the drawings on the ad on this now, and it is going almost 2.5 years, if I do
Well, we
correctly.
got a grant for that today or this week.
Right, that's
That's what we're
this one.
talking
Yeah.
about.
So
Okay.
we agree with I concur with what your proposal that too in terms of that funding too, but
Yeah.
out of what we're talking about, we're only talking about the exact matching
Right.
amount of
okay.
money that we got DCNR.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Not-
worries.
I
Yeah,
thought-
not the full amount of the pool money.
No,
Yeah, I just
We
thought
don't need
about
that.
the
Just
just the match.
Before, I would like to give a kudos to Paul Estock,
Paul.
Park and Recreation Department, who's the one who put the grant together, did all the work with the engineer from hydrologist that we had look. This is like going back 2.5 years ago. So Paul did a lot of legwork on this, and I give him a lot of credit.
And the Heritage Trail, and he worked with the Heritage Trail folks too.
And the Heritage Trail people.
Mr. Little, has this been discussed in the Parks and Recreation Board by chance?
Uh,
A couple of years ago, Nick, I believe.
I don't know if Paul.
Just initially it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
initially.
Yeah,
Initially, yes,
may-
that's correct.
Excuse me, if I may, I called Mr. Estock when I saw it on our website to ask him exactly what it was for. And he told me that they were having a delayed Park and Rec meeting on the 18th and that they would discuss it then. So if that answers your question, Mayor?
It does.
How long's the bridge? You know,
Yeah,
I don't have the drawings in front of me.
It's been a while since we've seen it.
Steve, I noticed if you, and I know you know the area well.
Yeah.
Visualize about from where the skate park is over across into the over the creek to come in contact with the trail.
yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like a reasonable deal.
It is. It's terrific. Yeah. It's
I
terrific.
guess-
Yeah, it exits or it lands like in the gravel part or the part of the parking lot there between, like Mr. Coach said, the skate
Skate.
and Valley Park, the soccer field. There's like a strip there that
Yeah.
land there.
Well, and to add a bathroom and a pavilion is super for the people.
Yes, and that pavilion would be able to be rented
It's 90 feet,
Thank you.
Mr. Wolfram.
90 feet.
Do you need
So
action
Tim,
on
are you
that, Mayor?
are you looking for direction on this?
No, this is just an FYI for the public and for all of council. I know I've talked to a few councilmen, maybe 2 council members about it, but I just wanted everybody to know it collectively and let the public know. Specifically, it's $243,500 is the grant.
It's great.
To
Any grant
to
we
the
can
Park
get.
and Rec Department.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Little?
That is it.
Thank you. Moving over to our municipal staff, who's still hanging around here. Mr. Sedlak, do you have anything for this evening?
I do not.
Mr. Wielden?
Yes, I have a brief zoning ordinance update. We're making progress. We're getting closer every day. Bulk of the text is complete. Within that text, I have a bunch of notes, red lines, and things highlighted that I'd like to discuss with the solicitor before I go any further. Once I have that discussion, that may be able to happen this week or next week. After that, I need to get into drafting the diagrams for, front yard setbacks and parking lot dimensions and things of that nature. And then I have a use chart that's pretty much done. I got to clean that up. And then the last big step will be actually revising the zoning map. But we're getting closer. It's turning out to be a readable document. And if anybody wants any information on where I'm at, please stop by.
Thanks, Paul. Excellent job. It's a huge undertaking, but super important. And I know council was really encouraging you to get that rolling. It's been sitting there for quite some time prior to you getting in that position. So we appreciate you picking it up and bringing it across the goal line here. So yeah, you can meet up with Mr. Ratcher at your convenience and at his convenience and get this done for review. Anything else this evening? Mr. Wielden?
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hugus, there's an item for you, I believe?
There is. Mr. Little had recommended I put on the agenda. One of the items that the wintertime activity works is tree trimming within the right-of-ways of municipal roads. One of the areas that we're headed to in the near future is Monticello Drive and Mount Vernon Drive. These specific areas, during the development of it, there was a lot of trees that were planted between the back of curb and in front of the sidewalks, and it created such a tree canopy that whenever the fire trucks, salt trucks, refuse and recycling trucks travel
through those roads, they're getting hit with the branches of the trees. Now, it's a sensitive area. One of the things that we do before we trim the trees is we hand out letters to all the residents that they and for them to contact us if they have any specific concerns with the trees. But he wanted me to bring council up to date because we're going to be starting this activity pretty soon. And again, sometimes it's not the most popular activity with the residents, but it's something that we're going to get started with.
Okay, thank you, Lucas.
Good luck, Paul.
Thank you.
And is Ms. Rock here this evening?
No, she is not.
Okay. We're going to move over to our reports of our council members. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple things. Today, tested for COVID over at number 4 Far Hall, and you have to make an appointment through Allegheny County, but there was hardly any wait. And, you know, if you have the opportunity, I encourage you to go get it. The other thing I encourage you to do is wear your mask, stay safe, wash your hands, do all that good stuff. Now, my other concern is we have 5 councilmen here that really disappointed me. And based on the nominations and based on the votes for their own families to certain paid boards. And I would just like to aware of this, and I'd like the public to reach out and let everybody know how you feel about that, because in my concern, it is wrong, and it is something that should not be done. There are plenty of our citizens out there that would love to be on these boards. However, we have a couple council people and some other council members that have formed a pact. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 beats 2 every day. So the whole thing with me is I'm very disappointed. And I know you don't care, but somebody is going to care. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I looked up the American Beautification Act, who was presented by Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, Lady Bird. And I looked at it and found that the federal government has rules and regulations for billboards. One of them is like 666 feet off of the right of way, which don't pertain to us. But the federal government made an agreement with Pennsylvania state. And I give each one of you a copy of this. And I give Mr. Little a copy, and I would like to direct Mr. Little to look through it, change some wording, bring it back to council. And I think we need an ordinance on billboards for Monroeville, which we don't have now. So I don't, do I need a motion to do that, or can we just do it?
Well, let's be clear on your motion, because one thing I would suggest, maybe this is something that we need to, and this is something that with Mr. Wilden and Mr. Ratcher, something we can incorporate with our new zoning ordinance.
Well,
There are
I'll
some
make a
provisions
motion that Mr. Little and his staff, whoever's involved, look at this agreement between the federal government and Pennsylvania on billboards and change the wording or whatever they need to do and present it to council February meeting. And I think we need to act on this pretty quick because these billboards are going to keep coming back, and Monroeville's been fighting it probably for 50 years.
So a question, Mr. Ratcher, I'm not sure. So Mr. Williams, are you suggesting we do a standalone ordinance or perhaps just incorporating this with our
I
zoning?
think it's standalone ordinance. We have a billboard ordinance now, but
we can.
able to skate through it. And I think we need to take that and change it and incorporate this one that was made by the federal government to Pennsylvania. And being that Pennsylvania does this, they're entitled to other federal funds.
Mr. Ratcher, if you could weigh in on that suggestion.
What I hear, I'm aware of the legislation that Mr. Williams is talking about. It's up to council whether or not they want to adopt new billboard regulations. I suspect that in the zoning ordinance that Mr. Weldon is currently working on, there are some regulations that are probably more updated than the ones that are in the present ordinance. But there's certainly no harm in taking a look at it. So we'll socialize that document that you provided, Mr. Williams, and we'll look at what we have, and obviously council has not seen the finished product yet on the ordinance in general, but we can certainly take a look and determine what regulations of those would be applicable to Monroeville, what we could use, and council obviously is the ultimate has the ultimate say on what we pass as a final product. But we will take a look at it.
Thank you.
And also, if time is an issue, if we decide that we need to do a standalone ordinance, we can, or if it's just as appropriate to work it into our new zoning ordinance, we can do that as well. Maybe start with getting the information to Mr. Little and staff, and then figure out what the best way to move from there.
My problem is the zoning ordinance might be another 2-3 months away. We could look at this now and then maybe take some action on it, because I don't want these billboards coming back to us in the near future.
Well, we can get it to Mr. Little and staff, and then we can consider it if staff agrees, consider it at next month's meeting, either to move on if we think it's a time issue, or we can incorporate into the further document. But let's get the ball rolling and having it reviewed. Because I agree, billboards, whether it's, I know there's some issues we have with the maintenance of electronic boards that we need to update in our zoning ordinance, but let's start with getting it, and they can bring it in front of council next month if we need to act on it. Mr. Williams?
Good enough. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Arasinko, please.
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Mr. Wolf?
You say me, Mr. Mayor, you
Yes,
talked out
sir.
there.
The councilman from
Okay,
the
all right.
fourth ward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just have a short little message. First of all, I'd like to thank you for that state of address. I thought it was excellent. And just to make my comment on that billboard, one thing I didn't get to ask because everybody was throwing questions left and right. My opinion, if you look at that picture, it looks like a person was standing on the road taking that picture, and they kept saying that it wasn't going to be in the eyesight of the driver. I've driven that road a million times being a mailman, and you focused right on that corner a lot. Like I said, it is a bad corner. Other than that, I have nothing, Mayor. I wish everybody the best of luck, and I hope we can get through this hard times I know some people just want to stand solid on what they believe, and there's no other ways. But like I said, we're here to make decisions, and it's just tough sometimes. And I wish everybody a good night. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfram. Mr. Harvey?
Oh my God. While you're talking.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
I don't understand why it's not unmuted.
There you go.
Harvey,
The floor is yours.
Okay, I don't know how many of you know Dr. Michael Hoey, but he's practiced dentistry in Monroeville for I don't know. I went to Gateway High School with him. His office has been here on Monroeville Boulevard for a very long time. He was my class president. He announced his retirement. He will be missed by my family as well as many others. My closing comment is, good for you, Dr. Hoey. Enjoy your retirement. The second thing is, thanks to UPMC East, and yes, once again, Sean Logan, Forbes Regional Hospital, our first responders, EMS, police, and fire personnel received their first COVID vaccine. Thanks to everyone involved. Again, Sean Logan, UPMC, Bob Twaddle from Forbes, and everyone that I'm not aware of, thank you again. And last, well, next to last, as far as my wife's appointment to the municipal authority, when we first got on council, Mr. Spielman passed away and was on the municipal authority. Mr. Wilson, along with myself, were on council at the time. Mr. Duncan asked if we would appoint his wife to the authority. And Mr. Wilson and myself voted for that. I don't know what the difference is here today, but just to reiterate, you did vote for Mr. Duncan's wife to go onto the authority. And last but not least, hopefully this will be a much safer year for everybody. Please, everyone, follow the guidelines and let's get through this thing.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Mr. Poach.
I have nothing else this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mrs. Gatos.
Things I'm going to ask if I could please seek a motion to advertise an ordinance for a handicap sign at 414 Shady Ridge Drive.
Council, there's a motion to, this is Mrs. Gatos, is to advertise the ordinance, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so as far as specifics and deliberation, this was only to advertise. So is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Sharon?
Sharon, if, oh,
Mrs. Gatos, Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram, Mr. Osinko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
He left.
The ayes have it, though. Mrs. Gatos, go on with your comments.
Yes, along the lines of what Mr. Harvey had to say, and to answer Mr. Wilson, I know that Mr. Arasinko and myself have many months asked for people to apply for boards. And we've gotten no response from the public. And these boards were sitting open. Some have actually become or not even in use any longer because there's nobody on them. So kudos to our family. They're willing to step up to help serve the people of Monroeville in this capacity. So, I'm thankful for them, and I'm thankful that they're willing to do that, because if the public's not going to stand up and our family is, so be it. And this is not unprecedented. And I don't like him acting like that it is and treating us that way. So I thank everyone that applied. That's all I have to say.
thank you, Mrs. Gatos. And I just want to focus on the main issue is having these Zoom meetings. One of the main issues. We're really working hard to get back to it. For the public to stay tuned. We may be able to try to find maybe some hybrid ways in that. Maybe we could have the public be able to come in, because I know some of these issues we had, particularly with the rezoning, potential rezoning of the airport. We really would like to have the public be able to come in and speak. We did have some public hearings this evening, but certainly it's not the same as, certainly want to take all the safeguards and take all the precautions, but we're going to really try hard to find a safe way to do these meetings and get them back to normal. I know we might not be able to all meet up here, all 7 of us or 10 of us when it's all said and done, but we're going to keep swinging at it here. And part of it has to do with the vaccines that are being rolled out, people continuing wearing their masks and washing their hands and doing all the right things so we can get things in our community back to normal. And I just want to close with a very important announcement of my daughter, wishing her a very happy birthday. She turns 16 tomorrow.
Oh,
So we'll be putting her license plate in the license plate readers and notifying all of the police department. So, but happy birthday, Hannah. Seek a motion to adjourn.
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you and good night.